friends, book family, welcome back to Black Book Stacks. I'm your host, Rashonda Sanders. It has been a long time. Thank you for your patience and for continuing to share and subscribe. If you are on the internet and on Substack, I do have a corresponding Substack on that relates to the channel, which is also called Black Book Stacks. So you can follow me there, and I will follow you back, particularly if you're into books written for and about Black people, because that's my jam. It has been a wild year, to say the least, and I think 2024 is not going to disappoint in terms of excitement, but published a novel this year, if you did not know that, and if you have not picked it up, it is called Women of the Post. I am here to talk about other people's books because I did not put myself on my best of 2023 list because that would be weird. Although I certainly think it was one of the best books of the year, and so I will include information about that in the description box below. For those of you who are new, so welcome. And for those of you who have been patiently waiting for me to publish another video at some point in 2023, thank you. Welcome back. I love best of books season. Like, this is my favorite time of year. I'm a Capricorn, so I like it because it's Capricorn season. My birthday is coming up soon in January. But I also love it because I get reminded of books that were on my radar but somehow fell off, or books that I also really enjoy that other people enjoyed, so it's really affirming. And it also just allows me to discover new authors and books that I would certainly appreciate. So without further ado, drum roll. I have a list. Ordinary Notes by Christina Sharp is one of my favorite books of the year. It has been such a joy to read and to dip in and out of. I still have some ways to go though, maybe less than 100 pages, I think, for sure, maybe like 60. I found out about Christina Sharp recently. I think I was reading Read Until You Understand by Farah Jasmine Griffin, and she mentions Christina Sharp quite a lot, and I was like, who is that? I have to know her. And so I went and picked up Ordinary Notes. So beautiful. I have to read In the Wake on Blackness and Being, which I think is her other book. I'm really excited to check that out. Chain Gang All Stars was one of my favorites of the year as well. No surprise here. Big fan of Friday Black. And I keep thinking about the main characters and competition and relationships and the extent to which it can feel like a life or death matter, but it ends up being one for sure in that book. It's also just like a lovely meditation on freedom, on Black freedom, what that looks like, especially when you're talking about a carceral state. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, but if you're imprisoned and you're thinking about relationships, what your value is to the world, within your relationship and outside of it, really powerful in that context. And of course, there's noise. It was so quiet before I started filming this video, which is one of the reasons why it's hard for me to post a video anytime that I am taking advantage of daylight, because there's noise outside. But anyway, let's just ignore them. The Unsettled by Ayanna Athas is her sophomore novel, author of the 12 Tribes of Haiti. I don't really remember reading the 12 Tribes of Haiti because I read a lot, and so it just kind of fell off my radar. And yeah, but for some reason I feel like this book was quieter. It's about Philadelphia. It's about a mom and her kid, and the mom is sort of unraveling because of domestic violence and some other things. And there's like land back for them in Alabama. But she, meaning Ava, who is the main woman in this book, sort of just continually gives her power away in different ways. And so anyway, it's really interesting, really well written. It's kind of fascinating. It reminded me of the Move family, the Africa family, who was part of the Move movement in Philadelphia in the early 80s, I want to say, that were bombed by the city of Philadelphia, and much more, I think, over time. But that's mainly how I think about them. Anyway, really interesting book to check out. I loved The Black Angels. I might have mentioned it on this channel before. Maria Smilios. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Maria. My bad if you're watching this. If not, but she and I are actually going to be in conversation about sort of recovering these Black women in history who have done amazing things, and writing about them and our journeys to doing that at the New York Public Library in March. So look out for promos about that coming up soon. But this is about the nurses in Staten Island. Because first of all, what? Staten Island, Black people? What? Other than Wu-Tang? Who knew? So yeah, Black women nurses who helped cure tuberculosis in Staten Island. Fascinating, fantastic. And then the only other book that I have a physical copy of, because the rest of these are going to be books that I read on Kindle or I got galleys for, and I just like didn't get like the physical galley. I just got the Kindle version or on NetGalley, is How to Save Babylon by Sophia Sinclair. And it's really riveting. I think I'm less than halfway through at this point. Really fascinating story of a girl raised in Rastafarianism in Jamaica and what that really is and what it really means. And it's funny because I had dreadlocks in the late 90s, and for a lot of reasons that are too much to get into on a book channel. But I think a lot of other Black Americans who didn't, I mean, I grew up Catholic, so I didn't really know really the significance of wearing dreadlocks, or that they weren't supposed to be neat, for example, that it was just supposed to be your hair growing out of your head and you just woke up like that, you know what I mean? And that was supposed to be your connection directly to John, to God, and Haile Selassie and all this. So I clearly don't even know what I'm talking about because I haven't finished the book, but just the early insights that I've gotten from reading almost half of the book have been really fascinating. In the first part of the book, Sophia is really setting up her father's devotion to the religion and what that meant for her and her mom and her family, and how it shaped the way that she saw herself in relation to the world, but also to other people. So that's really a lot to take in. It's really quite beautiful. I highly recommend it. Okay, so for the books that I no longer have, I think I gave away my copy of The Survivalists by Kashana Cauley. It is about Black survivalists in Brooklyn. I certainly talked about it early on in this channel, I think in January of 2023, because I was fascinated by the concept, and Kashana is a fantastically funny author, so that was definitely one of the memorable reads of this year. I would include Lone Women by Victor LaValle in that camp. Fantasy, but also a little grotesque. Black women, turn of the century, Montana. Not something you read about basically ever. So super cool. One of my favorite NetGalley ARCs, or advanced reader copies, was Black Love Letters, which was a collection of love letters on Get Lifted Books, which I think is either completely published or co-published by John Legend. This particular anthology was edited by Cole Brown and Natalie Johnson. Just really beautiful. I mean, I think, you know, obviously I like to read all things Black all the time, but I think there's something really particularly beautiful about reading about Black love at a time where there's so much hatred that is basically rooted in anti-Black racism and bias, and so or at least adjacent to it. So that was really uplifting and really lovely to read. And last but never least is The Upcycled Self, which is the memoir from Tariq Trotter, also known to me and many millions in the world as Black Thought, who is the lead MC musician for The Roots. And it was an astounding memoir. One of my favorite memoirs, I think, ever, honestly, just in terms of him talking about really growing up in Philadelphia as a Black child, Black boy who became a Black man, who was not necessarily encouraged to pursue his path as an artist. But he wasn't discouraged either. I mean, the biggest discouraging factors really turned out to be the elements, right, in life that just kind of can come to bear on a life and threaten to destroy it. And so that was really fascinating to read and think about as an artist myself, who was born in Philly, who's admired Black Thought for quite a long time, just with the clarity of language that he uses, the confidence, the swag, the genius, really, I think, that he and Questlove bring to the world, certainly to music, but in general, you know, in the tradition of Black creativity, they really bring like a sort of literary sensibility that is also very modern, very hip hop, right? And so so that was great to read and to listen as I was reading, you know, knowing his cadence, knowing the way that he just like throws down on like a freestyle, and like to see that on the page and to experience that in book form was a real treat. So that's my list. I don't even know. I didn't even count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh my gosh. It's a perfect 10. It's a perfect 10. Okay. So again, thank you so much for bearing with me, for subscribing to my channel, for sharing my videos, for sharing my enthusiasm for these books. Please also purchase my novel if you haven't. Please get it as a gift if you're so inclined for any of the upcoming holidays, occasions, etc. There will be much more from me in the new year. Well, what's much more? I mean, I have much more coming up in terms of the book and events and things like that are coming in 2024 that I'll also mention and drop mentions of. But tons of books that I'm looking forward to reading. One of them is a biography of Naomi Osaka that is coming out in January. That is eponymous. So that's the name of it. And then there's a debut novel called Sugar Baby that I'm into, excited to read. There's a book coming out called Smoke Kings in February. Tons of goodness. I think there's a book called Madness that I didn't even get a chance to read. Kidado Williams wrote a book called I Saw Death Coming that I'm also looking forward to reading in 2024. So I would love to hear from you what you have on tap for 2024, what you're most looking forward to. Maybe we have some of the same things in common. We will see. Stay tuned. But until then, happy reading and be well.